Hello, church. What I'd like to talk to you today about is Bible classes and how they can help us to be closer to God. So, when we first started teaching Bible classes to children, Mary and I, many years ago, well, let's call it 10, a lot of times kids wouldn't be paying attention, and we would ask a question and they'd all sit there and we'd call a name. And this is what we'd always get. For example, Mary.
Jesus.
There you go. A lot of times they were right. She's sitting over here laughing. But it's true. We didn't have candy in our classes because we figured, gosh darn it, kids could go for an hour without candy to distract them. And I wish I had some cellophane here to crinkle, but you can imagine what that sounds like when people are opening a snack up. And they're fixated on their candy. They don't hear a word we say. So when most of the people who taught classes at my last church passed out candy to the kids, we didn't do that. So we were sort of looked at like a little hard-nosed about it, but we really thought it was for the best. Even in VBS, still to this day, if we're teaching any biblical information to children and they show up to that segment of VBS that we're going to teach them the Word of God, if they come in there with candy, forget it. They are focused on that candy. That is their idol. They are not, sugar. Can't have enough sugar. If you saw the movie Michael, you absolutely cannot have enough sugar. So, in my very first Bible class I taught, I made a little girl cry because they walked into the class with candy. And I'm going to pretend this is candy here. Actually, it's a salt shaker. And I was trying to teach them about being nice to other people and that it's a choice. So to illustrate my point, I walked up to one little girl who had her bag of candy, and I picked up the candy and I took it. And I said, "This candy's mine now because I'm bigger than you and I want it. And there's nothing you can do about it." And I wanted to immediately go into explaining why what I did was wrong, and she just burst out crying. And it took me a while to calm her down and give her back her candy and then make the point I was saying. And I did not hear the end of that for some time from the rest of the church with how, "Hey, did you hear that Joe made that little girl cry?" So, getting children's attention is really, really hard. Sometimes we have to reduce things to such a smallest denominator because they don't understand big things. They understand candy. They understand no candy. They understand look both ways before you cross the street, because that's one of the first things we teach them when they get mobile, don't we? And they take it seriously because they know that we take it seriously. And they understand that if they don't do that, they could be seriously injured or killed. So how do we teach biblical application to children, to adults for that matter? Well, it's easier if you do it and then teach it rather than not do it and teach it anyway. My parents always told me that I had to go to church on Sundays. They never did. When I was a teenager, one of my dad's friends caught me and a bunch of other guys skipping out on Sunday service, and my dad was irate when I got home, and he said, "So-and-so told me that you and everybody else ditched church and you haven't been going to service. Is that true?" And I said, "Yes." And he was like, dumbfounded. And he says, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Why do you do that? How come you and Mom don't go to church?" So, although adults know more and have a lot more savvy than youngsters do in terms of life experience, whenever you start talking about God's laws, whenever you start talking about application of the Bible, people are going to look to see where that information's coming from. And they at least have to know that, yeah, this person isn't perfect, but they try really hard. I've noticed that about them. It gives it a heck of a lot more credit. You can't smoke a cigarette and tell a child not to smoke. You can't drink whiskey and tell a child not to drink alcohol. You can't take drugs, except prescription drugs, and tell a kid they can't use recreational drugs. They're very black and white. And as we get older, we lose our childhood naivete. And when a child looks at you, at first they look at you in wonder, and then they start doing this. And finally, the adult will just sit there like. So, they're not just weighing your words when you talk about the Bible and how to apply it. They're weighing you too. They're looking at you also. So if you want to put yourself in a position to tell people about God, we need to do the best we can to try and be as godly as we can. I hope you have a great day. Love you, church.